Hi everyone. I just wanted to share a few quick things that I am thankful for this year. Some things from my own life and from the industry of agriculture. For me personally, this year has been really chaotic, and I know it's been that way not just for me, but for my community, for the nation, for the world. And so now, more than any other year, I think it's so vital that we pause and remember to count our blessings and share and communicate with one another the positive things happening in our life and the things that we're thankful for, even in the midst of a lot of challenges. Personally, I am so thankful for all of the individuals and companies and organizations that have embraced and leaned into the chaos that we are experiencing this year and the way that they have adapted to the challenges that have come up, the way that they have stepped forward very courageously to try new things, whether that's putting their events online because they couldn't hold them in person or finding other creative ways to connect with people. I graduated in May, and while that was super exciting, it was also hard because we didn't get to have maybe the graduation ceremony that we'd envisioned for years. But I'm so thankful for the people at the University of Arizona that still made graduating with my Bachelor of Science in Agriculture a memorable experience, even if it had to be virtual. And I'm also thankful that I got to have that experience of graduating while sitting on my couch surrounded by my family. If I had to pick one thing that I'm most thankful for about this year, it would be that it's given me the opportunity to spend more time with my immediate family, with my mom, my dad, and my siblings. Probably more time than I've spent in the last several years combined. And there's been difficult things that come with a lot of time and close contact with your family, but also a lot of good things. And I hope that I carry the memories and lessons from this year with me for the rest of my life. I am also so thankful to live in a country where we have such an incredible agricultural system. Were there times during March and April where some places you couldn't find bread on the shelves or milk in the freezers? Most of that is because we hoarded food, not because we really ran out of things. And even milk, we produced plenty of milk, but we just didn't have bottles or bottle caps or other things along the manufacturing line to be able to get it to consumers. And so agriculturalists and companies had to find creative ways to get their products to people, and people adapted and people shared with neighbors. And I guess my point is, we still had food. Were we missing some products? Yes. Was it harder to get something? Sometimes yes. Were there fights over toilet paper? Yes. But we live in a country that produces enough food to feed and supply ourselves. We don't have to rely on imports or something else to feed us. We are able to produce enough for the people in our nation and export some to the world. I think this year when things went missing in the stores, that really should just be a reminder to us to be thankful for the abundance of food that we have available to us in this nation. Because really, if you're celebrating Thanksgiving this year with a table filled with delicious foods, you're a small percentage of the world's population, and that's something we shouldn't take lightly. Now, I know not everyone, even in the US, has access to healthy, affordable food. And there are places both in rural America and in the middle of cities where there are food deserts, where they don't have easy, reliable, affordable access to healthy, nutritious food. This is something that we can improve on as a country, is addressing the issue of food deserts. But the highlight that I want to point out in all this is that it's not because we don't have enough food. We produce so much food in America. We have one of the most effective and efficient agricultural industries in the world. And so what we need to do as a society, as individual communities, is come together and solve these problems of how do we give access to people to food? How do we empower people to be able to have jobs, to be able to afford food? How do we bring fresh produce into these areas where they can't easily access it? I don't have all the answers for that, but I think that we can move forward in that together. And I think there's a lot of hope there, and that's something to be thankful for. Speaking of our agricultural industry, despite the chaos that's going on, there's still so many good things that are happening. For example, people who are, fighting some of those issues of food deserts in the middle of urban areas. There's a couple who have founded a company in Canada where they are building greenhouses on the top of urban buildings. This year, they have a greenhouse that it's the largest of its kind. It's as big as 3 football fields put together on top of a warehouse in Montreal, Canada. And according to an article that was done on them, they could feed up to 2% of the city's population year-round in Canada, where it's freezing cold. I would never survive in Canada, but they can do it with this greenhouse. It's really neat. I'm super excited about people who are finding creative ways to bring agriculture where it needs to go. And now, let's talk about cows, because if you know me, you know that I love cows. Super cool things happening in the bovine industry this year. There was a research study done showing that feeding cattle a type of red seaweed can actually reduce their methane emissions. So if you're one of those people who is really concerned about our environment, or one of those people who really loves efficient cattle production, this next tidbit is for you. Basically, they found that feeding this seaweed to cattle can eliminate or greatly reduce the amount of methane that cows produce. Livestock can get a bad rap for, polluting the environment with their cow farts, which is not actually technically correct. Cow farts contribute very little to the methane output. It's the cow burps you gotta watch out for. Get your flatulence right, come on. All that to say, while methane production from livestock such as cattle only makes up about 5% of the total greenhouse gas emissions in the US, it's still a sizable amount and something that we can work towards cutting down in order to be more sustainable. So if this is a potential way of feeding your cow seaweed to reduce that methane emission, that's a win. And it's a win for everyone, because if the cattle is using that methane now, instead of releasing it into the atmosphere, they're actually using it to produce energy. That means that we're now being more efficient, and that can help us produce more livestock with less inputs, which is really a win for everybody. Now, this is all new stuff. Of course, there's more research that needs to be done, and there's challenges, obviously, because we can't just go out into the ocean and harvest all the seaweed and feed it to the cattle of the world. We would run out of seaweed. Like, you can't just take the seaweed from the ocean and do that. But we could have seaweed farms. We could have seaweed farms in the ocean, which would still be giving a ton of beneficial benefits that seaweed has to the environment in the ocean, and then we could harvest it and feed it to cows. Anyways, maybe we'll do an update on this sometime as more research is done on the long-term effects. Again, this study only looked at it for about 5 years, and it didn't find any negative factors. It didn't diminish the quality of the beef or of the milk. Oh my goodness, part of this study that they have to continue to do in the future, because again, this was done over 5 years, they didn't see any changes, but you have to go long term. Maybe the cow's stomach would adjust to the seaweed and then it would start producing methane again. Maybe it wouldn't have the same effect long term. We still have to do more studies, always, always, always. But one of the things that they're studying is, while they feed the cows the seaweed, they also have milk tasters as part of this study who are tasting and testing the milk for quality, making sure that the quality doesn't change even when we feed them this product. If y'all have not seen my video on milk tasting, you need to go and watch it, because this study, this whole thing just shows that milk tasting is a real thing and it's super important. And okay, that's my rant about milk. You should really go watch my milk tasting video if you want to get an idea of what maybe people who taste milk for a living is like. Oh, man, good times. All that to say, more studies are being done. We'll see where it goes in the future. I'll keep you updated if we get any cool new information about the viability and future of feeding seaweed to cattle. And now I'd love to hear a little bit from you. Please leave a comment below and let me know something that you are thankful for so that we as a community can be encouraged by one another. I'll share one last thing that I'm thankful for, and that is each of you who get on every week to talk agriculture with me. I hope that this Thanksgiving is a time where you are able to pause and be thankful for the blessings in your life. I hope that it's a time that you're able to connect with others, work diligently, act justly, and be courteous to everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.